similar to the delete Facebook incident, for example, and say we lose 1% of our Prime members. Jeff Bezos just announced we reached 100 Prime members this year. So if we lose 1 million of our members, that's a huge financial impact on our company and opens us up to the risk of other companies taking the place, or our partners such as USPS or other delivery modes actually jumping past and developing their own sustainable models that then customers look to steer to. So by doing this now, before we're being forced to, we're able to write our own narrative about how this is going to work and create a sustainable model that works for Amazon and continues to make our customers happy, because at the end of the day, that's also really our biggest focus.
So I'm just curious, and I'm a little concerned, because changing consumer behavior is difficult enough, but you're talking about changing consumer mentality. I think that you're grossly underestimating the cost of a campaign for actually helping your millions of consumers change the way that they're thinking about sustainability and ultimately potentially able to reward Amazon for making the changes you're talking about.
It's indeed something we've looked a lot into. So of the population that uses, for example, Amazon, a small percentage cares, about 15%. Most people are uneducated as to kind of what we just discussed and the impact that it has. And then a few small percent just don't care. So what we really want to focus on with our proposition is focusing on education. So that's why when we send push notifications, it's easy. You'll start getting them, and if you, in fact, are the small percentage that does not care, that's fine. We completely respect that, but we want to optimize our education in sharing that social responsibility of communicating what we are doing with our planet.
I'm a little worried about the autonomous vehicles. This last, was it mile? Wasn't somebody just killed by an autonomous vehicle? Isn't that going to slow down your plans that we implement this by the end of the year?
Right, so there's risks involved with autonomous vehicles, which, like you mentioned, are in the news and continuing to enter the minds of consumers and customers. So what we envision is these pilot programs launching and starting to understand how these vehicles could integrate into the current delivery models. We're not saying by the end of the year we'll have an active live fleet of autonomous vehicles driving around, but what we could have is a proof of concept, or these machines can start to collect data and understand how the routes work and try to avoid some of these bad situations. So these vehicles won't be screaming down highways like an autonomous car would be, or perhaps a Tesla on autopilot. It won't exactly be like that. These vehicles will be going through city streets that are congested or perhaps not navigable by heavy traffic. And so they're able to kind of reach those hard to reach areas where traffic is usually an issue. So in that sense, the vehicles won't be traveling at high speeds, and the vehicles won't be as much of a risk for accidents and other incidents as a car meant to carry around humans.
You mentioned that in the UK there's legislation that's talking about implementing some sort of sustainability for delivery packages. Do you think we as a board should consider adding that to our legislative agenda when we're talking to folks in the US about what types of changes in regulation we'd like to see? Would you welcome that sort of regulation in the US?
Yeah, I can speak on that. So I think that as long as Amazon themselves, as long as we're taking steps and confronting that, I think it's definitely in our best interest to go ahead and push that legislation through. Because these are a lot of some things that other companies, e-commerce companies, aren't doing. So by being the first one doing it and taking advantage of that, pushing that legislation through and supporting it, then we're once again having an advantage over the other e-commerce companies.
So I'm curious, is there a precedent for being an early mover? Is there really a reward in industry anywhere among our competitors for being an early mover around sustainability? Because what you're talking about are savings that are really in the noise for us.
Definitely. I know the numbers may not seem big, but the consumer mindset was the biggest focus for us. By being an early mover in this area of sustainability, we're capturing a big trend that is about to come again. That goes back to the whole proactive piece. We could be reactive, see everything play out, and then move in, which would be hard for us because a lot of companies are trying to stay 10 steps ahead, and that is the main purpose behind this discussion today, by being proactive in this and understanding that our future consumers are going to be millennials that care about sustainability, by knowing that investors are moving towards investing more in companies that have a strong focus of sustainability in their practices. These are information that we can act on now to make sure we're a forefront leader and a pioneer in this moment, or in this revolution before our competitors join us.
What if we simply switch to 100% biodegradable packaging? Doesn't all this problem go away?
Sure, so we actually looked into that specifically, and actually quite a good amount of detail. However, a lot of what Amazon's current initiatives are the recyclable portion of it, and a lot of what their necessities are of this packaging does not make it compatible with the typical non-degradable, or degradable packaging. So we saw Amazon taking a good amount of initiative in this process already, and so that, but they're not going to the last step and taking on that last portion that we highlighted.
What's the benefit of us taking this on versus our customers? I mean, if our customers recycle all of our packaging, doesn't that solve the problem? Why do we need to get involved?
I think that goes back to the whole piece of the ethics aspect. As again, one of the largest companies on this planet, we have a lot of not just money in terms of revenue, we have a social responsibility to do something about it. It's great to use sustainability and say that we're being a sustainable company, but we need to walk the talk. So if we take actionable measures to be a more sustainable company in all aspects of the supply chain, then that's something our customers are going to resonate with and feel like they need to do their part as well to add to this bigger picture.
Are our customers asking for this?
Definitely. So we talk to a lot of our personal friends and professors that we interact with every day. And the biggest thing that we heard was people don't know what they should be doing with the packaging. You get a box, it sits in the corner, you might use it when you're moving, but no one really knows what the action steps are to make sure that they're being sustainable. So by Amazon putting a focus on this and through those push notifications, educating our customers on what they can do, it's something that we can show them. Again, this goes back to the whole, the famous quote about we need to get so close to our customers that we tell them what they need before they realize they need it themselves. So until waiting like it gets to the Wall-E situation, we can be proactive, tell them that they need to care about this, because this is an issue that not just affects Amazon and our consumers, this is something that affects the entire world. So if we start now and keep reinforcing that mindset, this is something that will have a lot of long-term benefits.
There was something in one of your slides towards the end that I did not understand. And you said, if I heard you correctly, that carbon credits have financial benefit for individuals. How does that work? I thought those were for corporations.
Yes, it's actually in fact for individuals as well. So it's widely publicized the impact that companies can have by utilizing them, but individuals, a lot of the professors we spoke with, when we talked about the incentives, if you're a college student, you might be excited by a $5 discount or a $10 discount, but as someone who's making a salary and $5 and keeping track of when that's expiring is just not an incentive. So we really wanted to shift the focus to our larger audience and give them an option that would impact them in a positive way.
But I don't understand where the financial benefit to me is of a carbon credit.
Essentially, it's the do you want to touch on this a little bit?
Sure. So I guess whenever we looked at specific these carbon credits, and we know that there are some different types of energy credits and tax credits out there within the U.S., but there's also in different countries and different regulations and tax systems, there are also these type of carbon credits that really can help or incentivize individuals to kind of take initiative. Now, how exactly they look, we weren't able to find a great amount of detail on, just because it varies based on the country. However, the carbon credit itself, it does play an impact.
Can you walk us through one of the key slides you had? You were talking about the specific amount of tonnage that we could save in excess packaging. How did you come out to that number? Because quite frankly, to me it seemed low. if our packaging across the whole country is that, I mean, where did you get the numbers from?
Sure. So we were definitely conservative in regards, but what we did for that is, first off, we assumed how much weight is involved with per square foot of paper, and then from there we estimated how much per product of excess paper it actually goes within, and that's probably where you're right. We are a little low. We made the assumption that right around 5 feet of additional packaging paper is within boxes. However, we've seen plenty of instances where it's significantly more than that. However, we're going to be conservative on that estimate just because we were ourselves creating that.
And you multiplied that out by the full number of packages we...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So I may be old-fashioned a little bit, but we're good at what we do. We're the #1 online purchasing choice. And we got here by being really good at efficiency. Isn't that what we're talking about? Why do we have to talk about this in terms of sustainability? Why isn't this just an efficiency conversation?
Yeah, we discussed this at length and looked at different options, and we in no wise want to change the business model that we have because it's a powerful and effective one. So we're not saying to our customers, expect longer times, but we want to create the option of choice and empowering our consumers to be a part of this pioneering journey with us. So that's why we have push notifications where there's an opt-in, there's an opt-out. There's an opportunity for an incentive if you choose to take a longer route. You also don't have to. When we look at our different kinds of vehicles and modes of transportation, it's creating a diversity of experiences and options for our consumers to become a part of the decision-making process.
Are we being a little bit hypocritical here when we're talking about reducing the amount of paper and waste, and the boss went out and bought a newspaper?
I don't believe so. Hypocritical, you're referring to the Washington Post, correct?
Yes.
Right. And I don't believe we're being blatantly hypocritical. While the Washington Post is a newspaper, also a majority of that content is consumed online through devices and through web apps. And so as that continues to proliferate, we can hopefully continue to bring down the paper usage of the newspaper, but we're also trying to bring down our paper usage and our packaging. So rather than seeing it as hypocritical, I almost see them as working together.
It seems that the nexus of this is, what do you do with the excess boxes or excess packages? Would you suggest perhaps even going further and saying that Amazon should collect them on the next trip? I mean, what are some alternatives?
Yes, and we also explored some of these options as well. For example, customers could break down the box and set that outside, and then a type of vehicle or even a human driver could come around and pick those up, and then Amazon would be able to potentially even reuse them, or at least break them down in a way that they could be repurposed or disposed of effectively. So these are options that are out there, in addition to things like reusable packaging. So for the purpose of this recommendation, we focused really on the next step, which is optimizing our packaging fillers. But that's definitely the next step as we look towards alternative forms of packaging and then how we use and dispose of it. Those are really the next steps as well. So that's definitely right on track.
So I guess my last question is, recommendation 1 and 2, I can understand that there may be some fairly immediate cost savings or slight gains. 3, I'm really wondering about the timeline on that. Can you talk a little bit about when you expect our company to experience this as a gain, as a benefit?
Yeah, definitely. Like we mentioned, we have the infrastructure in place for the push notifications and making changes to the UI. So that's something we can test out right away with a small group of users to see how they interact with it and to make sure that we make an educated, informed decision before we push it out to our entire community. So that, again, is something that we can launch within the next 3 to 4 months. From there, again, assessing the results that we see, it can be scaled up to the larger community. Does that answer your question?
Not really. I'm just curious, how long do you think it's going to take to shift consumer mentality around returns, for instance?
I think the action step can be taken right away, but the shift in mentality is a long-term process. So to make sure that we stay on track and can see the long-term benefits, we need to start right now by doing these small changes to how our website is presented and also the notifications and various components that come with the app. So if we start right now, we can see the benefits long-term, which is something that's very crucial to our long-term success as well.
And can you just specify what is long-term?
We assumed 1 to 2 years.
A couple of weeks ago, somebody in Austin, Texas, was dropping off packages on people's porches that were bombs. Should we be worried about that? And what should we do about that?
Should we be worried about our company and our deliveries engaging in that activity, or should we be worried about?
Just sort of sending a message that Mr. Rosenberg's not home. There's a package on his doorstep. Hasn't been collected yet. Maybe we'll leave another package there. Boom.
That's definitely an interesting question. Again, since Amazon has so many different components it's dealing with, this is definitely a big ethical dilemma and concern that we need to have, but that was out of scope for this specific recommendation in terms of the impact that we had on the environment and consumers, so that is why we didn't dig deeper into that, but that is definitely a valid concern and something that Amazon as a whole needs to keep at the forefront as we make decisions about how we're going to interact with our customers and how we're going to make the end-to-end service as safe and ethical as possible.
Going back to what you were talking about in terms of minimizing returns, one of the reasons we feel we've been so successful is that consumers know that they can return it. They might buy something they wouldn't otherwise buy. If we highlight so much or incentivize them too much, isn't there a risk that they may not actually make that purchase?
That's definitely something we considered, but the thing that helped us weigh the pros and cons of it was the fact that when consumers buy something with the mindset that they are going to return it, it causes a lot of cost for us as well. Because, for example, if they try on a pair of shoes, decide they don't like it, and return it to us, if it's not in the pristine condition that it was shipped to the customer, it's not something that we can resell and make a profit of. So the reverse logistics portion of the return has a lot of financial burdens for our company, also not to mention the environmental concerns. So that was the thought process that we went to when deciding that reducing returns is something that both the company and the environment can benefit from.
So are you suggesting that that is voluntary on the part of clients? They could either choose to be involved in that or not?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So we looked at some e-commerce companies, and what they do is they provide discounts that incentivize waiving that option to not return an object. So for example, if I buy a new laptop and check that box saying I will not return this product, then I would get a small discount, which again just reinforces the fact that I am making a commitment to this product and it's not just something I'm buying short term.
Erica, last question to you.
I asked my last question previously.
Good. Take a deep breath. The hard part's done. Well done. During the Q&A, it's our job to throw you off. We failed. Good job. I mean, you demonstrated, you did a lot of homework, mastered the material, and you really did a nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your presentation manner was terrific, and your slides were fantastic. I mean, you did a great job on the graphics and all that, and I really like the way you put it across. If you're looking for constructive criticism, I mean, one thing I'd say is, in a way, this is such a win-win. It's hard to see the ethical dimension of it. Because, I mean, the way you framed it is correct. I mean, if Amazon saves on packaging, they're not only helping the environment, they're also saving money. So I'm not sure what to do with that.
But just as far as tactical feedback, I thought you did an excellent job. Very professional, very poised. Your slides were great, simple to follow, and you kept the same framework throughout, which is nice for an audience as well. The hardest part for me, and again, coming from the perspective of the board, shifting consumer mentality is a long-term process. So I wanted to hear a little bit more kind of realistically about that and potentially the cost. I personally obviously feel that everything you were presenting also was right on target, and the research that I've done around authenticity and how consumers perceive sustainability as authentic is that first movers have a tremendous advantage. So I wish you'd had some of that research, not necessarily mine, but actually I think it's a really important talking point for something like that. So Really well done.
Yeah. Are you all IT geeks?
Pretty much,
Yeah.
Well, the good news is it doesn't show. I mean, you're really very nice style. You engaged with us, and we felt that you were very interactive, and that's good quality to marry up with your technical skills.
Thank you.
Juniors, seniors,
Seniors.
all wow. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's sit down.